learned about in the previous part is that these are really good jobs, that computing is particularly rewarding in terms of job satisfaction, the number of hours worked, and in pay for those who do them, and that these computing jobs keep on ranking very highly in a lot of the surveys about the best jobs in America today. But the problem is that computing has a problem. It attracts too few people. And when we look at the projected jobs for 2022 in terms of the jobs that will be available requiring a degree, we see, and I will direct your attention to the slice, the red slice called computing occupations. That is 27% of the job openings in 2022 will be in computing, requiring a computing degree. And if we compare that to intended majors, so who might be available to do those jobs in the year 2022? Well, if we take a look at who is graduating and who is coming into college at this point, in 2015, a survey of intended majors, a national sample of students who were asked what your intended major is going to be, only a very small proportion, 3.8% said computer science, 1.6% said math and other computer science. And so altogether, math and computer science was only 5.4% of the intended majors. The largest proportion went to biology and life science, then business, then engineering, then the health professions, social sciences, and way down we see computer science. Okay, so when we think about this, let's compare. Okay, again, directing your attention to the slices of the pie, the red slices of the pie. On the left-hand side are the jobs available in the future. On the right-hand side, the intended majors for those who could study these fields. And we see, have we got a problem? Well, it looks like we do. We have a lot of great jobs that will be available, but only a few people who will be available and able to fill them. So this is the status of the problem that we're talking about. These are a lot of jobs going unfilled in the future, and actually right now is estimated that the number of jobs that are unfilled are about 500,000 open jobs that we have today, and only 50,000 college graduates per year to fill those 500,000 jobs. So there is this mismatch between demand and supply, and the computing job forecasts only project further increases in computing jobs, that this is the wave of the future. This is what our economy is going to be based on. And so it shouldn't be so surprising then that the high demand and the low production is explaining these computer science initiatives that have been taking place more recently. In particular, for example, early 2016, President Obama introduced the Computer Science for All initiative, which is basically a challenge to schools and leadership across the nation to offer opportunities for young people in American schools to study computing. This has resulted in and also has springboarded off of some of the compulsory provisions for computer science curriculum in places like San Francisco, which it is compulsory in primary and middle schools, New York City, primary schools, high school graduation in Chicago. Computing will be compulsory for high school graduation in Chicago. High schools in Arkansas, Texas, New York City now must at least offer computing courses to their students. But computing has a problem. It attracts only a narrow range of people. So when we think about why these numbers would be so low, why is it that there are so few people who are studying computing? Well, it turns out that computing has been attractive to only a very small segment of the population, or less than 50% of the population, and that is women and underrepresented minority men have historically not been attracted to computing as a field. And that is the majority. That's the majority of our population. And so if we are restricting our recruitment for this important and increasingly large field to less than the majority of the population, it shouldn't be so surprising to us then that in fact we're seeing a problem with this mismatch between the demand and the supply. Women's presence in the STEM disciplines varies. Computing really only draws on a small number of women. Women have actually reached parity or even surpassed the number of men in biology and have reached parity in chemistry and almost parity in math. So if you look at these two charts, we see the percentage of Bachelors of Science awarded to women in 2014 and the total degrees awarded to men and women in 2014. And what we see here at the very top of this chart is biology drawing 59% of all of the biology bachelor's degrees are awarded to women. Nearly half are being awarded to women in chemistry. 42% in mathematics and statistics. And if we look at those in the dark bars, which are the computing fields, we see only a very small proportion of those degrees are being awarded to women. So CIS, 17%, computer science, 15%, computer engineering, even less, 10%. And so what we see, and one thing this tells us, is that women are good at science and they're good at math. We hear that women tend to say, well, I'm not good, I'm not a biology person, or I'm not a STEM person, or I'm not a math person. Well, in fact, they are. It translates into 59% of the degrees in biology being awarded to women. Women are biology people. Women are chemistry people. And women are even math people. So it shows us that women are good at science and math, but it isn't translating into having women select computing fields as majors for themselves and seeing that as a potential for careers for their future. And the other important thing about this and what this shows is that not all STEM is the same. That we say, oh, we want to get more representation in STEM fields, but some STEM fields are doing very, very well. Biology, we really don't need to attract more women to biology. They're doing pretty well in that field. But when we look at some of those other disciplines that comprise STEM, we see, particularly computing and engineering, that there is a lack of women choosing these fields to study in college and then for their future. When we look at the percentage of degrees awarded in 2013, major occupations in terms of women and underrepresented minority men, the dark bar is bachelor's degrees awarded, and then doctorates awarded, those people who are employed in the field with bachelor's degrees, and those employed in the field with doctorate degrees. And what we see is it goes from, again, life sciences doing very well. This is those biology fields and so forth for women and for underrepresented minority men. Vast majority of the bachelor's degrees awarded in life sciences are going to women and men from underrepresented groups, but only a small proportion of those degrees in computer science are being awarded to women and men from underrepresented minority groups, and then even fewer are employed in the field in 2013. Okay, so why is this important? Why is this important to us? Well, I'll just say that groups of people, huge groups of people, the majority of our population in the United States, are missing out on learning the skills that are becoming increasingly important and valued in our society and in our economy. But I'd like for you to take a minute to think about diversity and why should it matter? Why should diversity in computing matter? And why does it matter to you? And I'd like for you to take a moment and to write down in 200 words or less and post it on our discussion board. The answer to this question, why should diversity in computing matter? And why should it matter for our country that there are so few people studying the field? And why does it matter to you? What is it in your context?